for issue 2. First of all, as I said, public employees will not be allowed to strike. And I say to you, if they are really doing the work of government, that is providing for our health, safety, and welfare, they have no right to deprive us of what God, the Constitution, and our form of government say are our birthright. Number 2, and the next 3 I want you to think about as job-creating provisions. Second point, public employees are going to be paid a salary or wage based upon established performance criteria instead of automatic step-up formulas. This seems to me is one of the most fundamental concepts of American freedom that we have. That is, people are not paid automatically anything, but rather they are paid on the basis of criteria that are measurable and objective. And it's eminently fair. And if employees, public or private, are entitled to anything, it's to be free and to be treated fairly. Third, length of service on the job cannot be the only factor to determine who gets laid off when times get tough. Now that's not to say it can't be a factor, it can. But if we want to encourage excellence and attract new generations of workers to public service, it cannot be the only factor. Fourth, merit. Merit is a mandatory criterion for establishing public employees' salaries and wages. Do you know of a job anywhere in this country that merit should not be a mandatory factor in considering their level of wages or salary? And that's the way it would be under Senate Bill 5 and a vote yes on issue 2. That is not the way it is now. Now, take those last 3 items, and you're a young person coming out of school. Let's suppose you went to college, you went to the College of Worcester, you graduated with a degree in communications, and you decided that what you really wanted to be was a teacher. And you went to John Carroll University and got yourself a master's in elementary education. Now you've graduated there and you're out in the job market. And you have a couple of choices. You can go to work in a state where the teachers are not judged by their merit. You can go to work in Ohio where if you're hired and times get tough, you're going to be the first one out irrespective of how good you are. You're going to go to work in Ohio and be paid a salary or a wage on the basis of some arbitrary formula that has been designed to promote longevity as opposed to excellence in the schools. Or you can go to work in North Carolina where they don't have any of those considerations, where people are paid on the basis of merit, where people are retained on the basis of the quality of the job that they do. Where will you go to work? I'm going to North Carolina. These provisions have economic consequences, obviously, but from my way of thinking, they have tremendous potential for being pro-retention of the brightest and best public servants that we can get in the state of Ohio. Fifth point is really 2. Under Senate Bill 5 and a yes vote on issue 2, the employee portions of pension contributions have to be paid by the employee. Right now there are statutes that say how much of public employee salaries go into their pension plans. So much on behalf by the employee, so much by the employer. But the statute also currently allows the employer to pick up the employee's portion, or at least as much as all of it. Under Senate Bill 5, that will no longer be allowed. Public employees will be required to make their full contribution of 10% of their wages to their pension fund. All right? Second part of this is that public employers will no longer pay any more than 85% of the cost of public employee health care benefits. Now, that is to say the employees, public employees, will be required to pay 15% of the cost of their health care benefits. By the way, although the number varies depending upon whose estimates you look at, the current average private employee pays something over 30% of the cost of their health care benefits. Public service, however noble, should not be motivated by a ticket on the gravy train. I heard a talk the other day by State Auditor Yost, who suggested, and I'm not going to remember all the details, but his bottom line was, had these provisions been in effect today, that it was, I believe it was the Youngstown School District would have been able to save, on the 85% of health care provision, would have been able to save $1.5 million a year. Now, think of how many teachers $1.5 million would buy. Think of how many books, how many computers, and how easily that could be folded into the educational system in Youngstown. He also suggested that the 10% pension contribution requirement, and again, I'm a little fuzzy, I don't remember if he said the city of Columbus or Franklin County, but the savings there would amount to $41 million per year. That's a lot of change. And when you're talking about pro-jobs, freeing that money up to be available to do other positive things, whether it's in the educational world, the social services world, or any other aspect of government operations, it can make a substantial difference across the state of Ohio. Final point I want to make is that under Senate Bill 5 and a vote of yes for issue 2, in labor arbitrations, the fact finder has to take into account the public employer's present ability to pay for competing labor contracts. The way it works now is management has a contract they propose, labor has a contract they propose, a third party decides which one to go with, and that's it. That arbitrator in that process does not have to consider whether or not the local government can afford to pay for the labor contract. Under Senate Bill 5 and a vote yes for issue 2, that fact finder is going to must consider the ability of the locality to pay for what's being proposed by the labor union. And if the ultimate decision maker in this case, which would be the local legislative authority instead of some arbitrator, decides to pick one of the two options, there's a process then that goes through whereby you have to make a determination of whether or not they picked the least costly option. And if they did not pick the least costly option, then there's a procedure under Senate Bill 5, which would come into effect if you vote yes on issue 2, that says the voters can challenge that decision at the ballot at the next election. So if you understand what I'm saying, it places in the local legislative authority, those people who you vote into office, the responsibility for deciding which of the two competing labor contracts to accept. And then it gives to you the right to second guess them if it turns out that they picked the option that's more expensive than the other one that was available to them. Now, there is a section on the Secretary of State's website that lists the official arguments in favor of issue 2 and the official arguments of the opponents of issue 2. And I've looked at it and I see two substantive objections to issue 2 that are listed on that part of the website. First is that issue 2 and Senate Bill 5 will make it harder for police and fire departments to get important safety equipment. You will hear this time and time again, but there is a specific provision in Senate Bill 5 that would be adopted as part of issue 2 that says that equipment issues directly related to personal safety do remain the subject of collective bargaining, just like they are today.